So,
At least I'm not a troglodyte, Casey.
That's fair.
really? Because fucking time's going to tell on that one, Hunter.
Welcome to the Beacon House Podcast, recorded live in Knoxville, Tennessee.
And that, Hunter, is where babies come from.
How many of those do you have? You have a lot of those.
I will literally wake up in the middle of the night because I've thought of one and pull out my phone and type it in real quick. And then the next morning go back and read it and be like, that was solid.
Dang.
The diagram is fuzzy. Can you show me again?
Hey,
Yeah, sure.
maybe
Absolutely.
Not.
So here's the bird. Mm-hmm. Picks up the baby
Yeah.
from Santa Claus, flies it to the house of the parents, drops it down the chimney.
Wait,
After
it's all
this,
a metaphor?
after that the gynecological experiment, this is the Beacon House Podcast, and I'm Spence.
I'm Hunter.
I'm Casey.
And welcome. Thanks for joining us today. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
That's good. I can't believe we talked about babies that long at the beginning of the episode.
That's all right. Hopefully people will find it informative. Maybe? Maybe not. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's the kind of informed they
They
want
might
to be.
inform us as they do every
might
episode.
inform
Did you
us.
know that it's not lava that comes over the top?
Well, I think we've been way past that.
I'm just bringing it up again.
I still think it's lava.
It could be lava.
Okay.
Anyways,
In fact,
guys,
one time, a friend of mine is on vacation right now in Hawaii, my friend Rob, and I'm pretty sure he went to a volcano and tar came out.
I hate you so much right now. That is not what happened.
No,
I'm pretty sure
Casey-
it's you and the rest of the world that have got it backwards. Lava.
Casey, you did gather Spencer and I together outside of our normal schedule for the podcast because you
Yes.
had a really important story you wanted to tell us.
I do have a story. I've been sitting on this one for a while because I didn't know if I wanted to tell it because it's a little personal, but it's not. I mean, well, what I want to do is I want to start with this story from how I started the story, which was I was at work, minding my own business, day-to-day life, and I get a phone call from my mom, and I ignored the phone call, and I was like, I will call her later, and then she immediately calls me again, and usually that means something's happened and she has something urgent she has to tell me. So I'm like, looked at my boss, and I was like, hey, I gotta go take a phone call real quick. Can you cover? He was like, absolutely. Went out, picked up the phone. I said, yes, I'm at work. What's up? And she goes, and this is exactly what she said with like a break in her voice, sounding like she's about to cry. She goes, I just want you to know that if you are ever in trouble, you don't have to be afraid or worry about calling me. You can call me whenever you want. I won't be mad.
Clearly,
And I-
she just heard this podcast.
yeah, I think it was the last episode. Oh no, yeah, Reading Rainbow was probably the one she heard. No, but she literally was very upset, and she was just like, "If you're ever in trouble, you can always call me and let me know." And I was like, "Okay, that's great. I'm not in trouble. I'm at work." She goes, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, pretty sure I'm at work." She was like, "Okay, well, a family member just got a phone call, and the person on the line said that it was you and that you were in jail and that she needed to give a credit card number over the phone to post bail, and that if she told me that you were calling and had this problem, that you would never talk to her again and you would disown her and all this other stuff, and it made her cry." And I was like, immediately, that's not cool. And my first thought...
I have a question. Did the person who called state your name?
Yes, it said...
So I am Casey Bishop.
They
knew
called
who you
her.
were.
They called her by
Her name.
Her name.
So they knew who you guys were. Somebody that
Yes.
knew you. Okay.
And
Or
said,
had
"This is
stolen your-
well,
okay.
they didn't say Casey Bishop. They said it's me, Casey." And she said, "You sound funny." And
You said, I'm in a banana suit.
no, he's what the person said on the phone is, "I have a cold. It's me. I need you to give me your credit card or send me money so I can post bail. I got in trouble." And she was like, "What happened?" And the person even had a story and said, I had a friend get pulled over. I was in a car with a friend that got pulled over for running a stop sign. He had drugs in the car. Now I'm in jail and I'm looking at doing time, but I need you to help me post bail. So I need you to send me, I think he said $7,000. And she refused to do it, said that she was sorry. She's still thinking it was me. The person gets mad at her, tells her that don't tell mom. I will disown you, this and that. It got ugly to the point where it made this person cry. And my mom, she then called my mom. My mom called me, and I was like, I'm at work. I haven't called anybody. I'm not in trouble. I'm absolutely fine.
That's really creepy. So what do you, when that happens, what happens next?
Nothing.
After you get a call, so
all I did is I told my mom, wasn't me. I'm fine. But apparently I Googled it, and it's a very big scam that people do where they call grandparents. They'll like, if you have grandparents that have recently had birthday cards or mail stolen out of their mailbox, they could probably be finding a way, like, that's the start of it. Is
they get your name off the birthday card,
and they get the person's name as well. And so I just want people to know that's out there. This happened close to a year ago.
Yeah.
But it's creepy that people do that.
Well, there's actually people that are really good at it, and they kind of specialize in it, which is, by the way, if anybody listening to this is one of those people, fuck you.
Yeah,
sorry to be
absolutely.
so crude, but you're a shitty person for doing that. And that's a terrible thing to specialize in. You could actually be doing something that would contribute something to society. Anyway, I again, we don't like to talk about where we work, and I'm not going to say where I work, but I work for a business that occasionally is in the business of taking credit card numbers over the phone to pay for things.
Same, and I hate it with a passion.
Well, that's not the problem, but there are people that will call us and claim that they work for the higher ups, like at corporate, and that they've had a computer issue and they need us to read them the last 6 or 8 credit card numbers that we took, which isn't true at all, but they're so convincing. And if you get somebody on the phone that doesn't know what they're talking about, sometimes they've almost given out credit card numbers. The good news is we can't go back and actually see the full credit card number because there's a computer protection built into it. However, if they can get them to read them the person's phone number, we've actually had people go, yeah, it was so and so, and here's their number, and they go, and they're always like, thanks, this is Jennifer from corporate. Thanks for helping us out, and then they'll call the person and pretend to be the business and try to get them to give their credit card. But there's a lot of scams that involve trying to get someone to give their credit card number. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that unless you know exactly the person you're talking to, anyone that ever calls you and asks for your credit card number unsolicited is probably a scammer. In probably 90% of situations. Don't give them that. And if you're one of those people, shame on you. You suck.
Honestly, like I've had phone calls before where the person claims that they're from the IRS and that if I don't do something, they're going to have me arrested. And it's funny because you can literally tell these people apart from the real IRS. First of all, the IRS will probably never call you. Second of all, they can't call the cops on you and have you arrested. So if you know those two pieces of information, next time you get one of those phone calls where someone is like, I'm from the IRS, and if you don't do this or give me your credit card number, you could be looking at jail time. It's like, first of all, you can't do that. You can audit me, but that comes unbeknownst to me. That you showing up to my house being like you're being audited. That's like you said, it's a process, and that usually doesn't end in jail time unless there's some sort of fraudulent activity, and you're going to be talking to a person face to face before you get anywhere near jail time on that.
Man, screw scammers.
Scammers are the worst, and they're getting worse and worse, as the days go on.
Well, it's like sadly, as technology progresses and quality of life progresses and all that, so does all of the ways you can manipulate. The bad stuff also grows and metamorphosizes and sort of like, it evolves also. And that sucks too. For every new layer of protection we get, we also get another layer of like some way to crack criminals and, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a whole psychology too, by the way, like as to like what is a criminal, what causes somebody to be a criminal. And it's actually pretty fascinating. Like, I've had to teach loss prevention workshops and stuff like that, and they teach you that like you kind of almost can't trust anybody. And that I don't want to send a mixed message, but there was something like, this is actually a pretty fascinating bit of information. Like, I think it was 1988, or somebody, whoever's listening to this, fact check it, Google it. But there was a year, I believe in the 80s, where like 50,000 children disappeared in the U.S. And the reason why is because that was the first year you were ever required to list Social Security numbers on your taxes next to the names of your children. Up until that point, virtually almost every American family were writing kids' names down that they didn't have because they got a bigger tax break from it. And that was the first year you actually had to prove that you had these children.
So did these people get like hunted down by the police and be like, where are
No,
these kids?
not at all. But the statistic, the takeaway, 50,000 children less were reported that year. That means that there's not a clear defining line between honest and dishonest people. What it means is most people, and again, this is not to be an insult to anybody that has a real strong moral code, but the truth is most people, when there's no consequence at all, will play to their advantage. And so that's why if you want to have like a secure place, if you don't want to have money stolen from you, the trick is to have a system. You know what I'm saying? It's not to decide who's a crook and who's not a crook, because people justify things based on all kinds of stuff.
But that's also why it's good and healthy, even though it's not as easy to have a strong moral compass. The thing that you and I talked about earlier during recording with the band and stuff, when what was it? I was saying you have more fun if you're humble as opposed to proud. And we were just dicking around, but I think that does hold true. In the immediate time frame, you have infinitely more fun by satisfying every desire of the flesh that you have, whether that's financial greed or gluttony, or like just go through the 7 deadly sins. Those are really good brackets for it. But if you don't hold yourself to those in the long term, nothing will ever come back. Everything comes back to bite you in the ass at some point, whether you trip on it yourself, whether it's exposed, whether it uproots and rots something on the inside, either metaphorically or literally.
Sure.
All bad behavior at some point festers.
Sure.
Which, I mean, I'm not perfect, nobody is, but it's just easier to walk the high road in the long run.
Yeah, and I don't believe in doing bad things. I mean, I try to, I believe in, and I admire people and look up to people, and he's our friend. Hopefully he's listening. A lot of people that listen to this podcast know him. I want to point out Eric Stam. Is just like, and it kills me to say this because I give him a lot of crap. Stam, you know what? Next time I see you, I'm punching you. But for now, I got to say, Eric Stam is like the greatest guy, and he has he has the strongest moral compass of, I don't want to say anybody I know, because you guys also, but he's one of those guys that is...
Stam has a better moral compass than I do.
He's almost honest to a fault. Not that there's such a thing, but like Stam is 1,000% could be trusted to always do the right thing, even when nobody's looking. And because he values his principles to the point where he wouldn't even consider, well, nobody's looking and I could get this thing and it would benefit me a little bit. He doesn't think like that. And I try not to, but I know that I've been advantageous at times and just thought, well, I could do this or I could do that. This would be a shortcut. And a lot of people think like that. But they say that people that have never stolen anything, like when the first day comes that they take a 20 out of the register or whatever, it's not because they aren't good people. It's because something happens. They're going through something, or they're struggling financially. They've got kids. I mean, whatever. Sometimes it almost sounds like a good reason. Kids are struggling. They're struggling to feed their kids or something like that. And they work for some company that they perceive not as a locally owned and operated business, but as like a national conglomerate of millionaires that are never going to miss $5. But that's literally going to be the difference between their family eating or not. And like nobody's looking. And they somewhere in their mind, something goes, you need it more than they do. They'll never miss it. Just take it. You've got to feed your kids. You know what I mean? And there's this whole kind of justification that happens. And it could be a really great guy who does it, but he's just tempted in the wrong way. And that's why they say, and again, the business that I work at, anytime I hear somebody going, hey, do you think so-and-so did something wrong? Or do you think so-and-so is honest? I always go, we're not in the business of deciding who is and is not a good person. We're in the business of maintaining systems. So we keep a close eye on the money. We have rules that if somebody tries to break them, they get caught. And so you get out of the business of being detective, the honesty police.
Yeah. Earlier, my pastor at Bible study actually said, he was paraphrasing like a main point for what we had talked about today, but it applies here. And not to, as you said, get judgy on people, because there are plenty of great reasons, fantastic reasons for a lot of the stuff that happens. But going back to, it's not better now, but in the long run, you won't get found out. You won't pay for it. What he said, the right thing done wrong is always wrong.
Absolutely. I totally
Which
agree.
is, what is it? What is Jedi don't do? An absolute, but
I don't know. But I'm pretty sure as long as there are methods of spending money and gaining things, and even when there's anything to be desired, there are going to be ways for people to try and take it from you. I mean, I've never seen it to be different from that. I don't know. And I'm not trying to turn this into like a discussion about guns or gun rights or any of that kind of stuff. But I heard when during one of the multitude of gun debates that's going on about banning guns, or should we have more guns or less guns, or what's actually killing us, and blah blah blah, and like I noticed somebody made a really good point, and they said when you make things easier for predators, you just get more predators. Mm-hmm. So systems are great, but I think somewhere along the line, everybody's kind of got to maybe, I don't know, what do you guys think? Maybe like assume their responsibility to protect themselves and their interests?
Yeah. It's fair. I give out my information almost never, but I know people that won't give it out at all, and to get by in this world, you have to at some point. So you just have to be discerning.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of times where I'm asked to like fill something out, you know, my first name, my last name, my email, my birthday, things like that. And people are like, oh, you should never do that. And I'm like, if somebody wants to get my identity, first of all, they probably have already done it. And I feel like I also would be able to, I would know. Like I don't know. I feel like I have a really good bank that can cover that. Maybe I'm too trusting.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my issues. I'm too trusting that someone's not going to steal my identity and steal my money, or, you know, try to get a mortgage or something like that under my name, which I've heard people doing that before, where someone steals your identity, and instead of just like taking the money out of your bank account, they take your name and your social security card and they go and like buy a house and put a mortgage on your name. And so then you start getting debt collectors calling you, and you start having your name besmirched and like in banks and things like that.
That seems weird, because if you buy it, I'm sure there's such a thing as that. Like maybe somebody's hijacked somebody else's credit or something. But if you were to buy a house, it seems like that it's hard to hide a house.
Yeah,
they'd have an address, and they could just go get the crook at that house or whatever. Or maybe they don't actually move there. Maybe they do it as a gag, or I don't know. The whole thing about stealing the identity terrifies me, because I know people that it's happened to, and they were literally just buying something on the internet with a credit card. Mm-hmm. And it was not. I mean, it was a secure website, so people do find ways to hack into that shit. And dude, I mean, I mean, maybe not as much as like a lot of people, but I buy shit on the internet, and I think like, God,
I usually use Amazon though, and I feel like they're pretty secure with their.
Well, what somebody
one of my affiliates can mess you up some.
Yeah, and just
that's
the
true.
Digital transfer of the numbers, somewhere they can intercept a lot of that stuff. I mean, hackers know what they're doing, but a podcast host that I listen to a lot, Dean Del Rey, who's, by the way, Dean Del Rey, Let There Be Talk, fantastic podcast. He was talking about, he's a comedian, you know, he does stand up with like Joe Rogan and Bill Burr, and he's with those guys all the time. And he said, man, I use a credit card for everything, because if you use your debit card, that's how they get you. Like that goes straight into your account. At least with the credit card, you have a layer of protection. So he tries to not use his direct, or something like PayPal. So any of those little firewalls you can hide behind are supposed to be a good thing, you know.
It's also good to just anything that you're going to sign actually read. Social media updates with apps and things, I'll skim those because it's like 12 pages long, and that's still not the best option, but I like look for the bullet heads for the things that I'm concerned about, and then read that section before I'll accept a new thing. And at the doctor's office, Soderbergh has that movie Unsane that's just come out. It never occurred to me as something that would happen, but I will never be tricked into being institutionalized because I have to go to so many doctors. I always looked out just for financial reasons, but that can't happen if you read everything, especially at doctor's offices. Like the apps, you still need to read, be safe, protect yourself, but the paper stuff that you're like, I'm at the doctor, it's fine, and you'll just sign it. That's how someone that is trying to do something nefarious can get you, because a lot of people don't read that stuff, and why would you? But
I am so guilty. I never. I mean, I dude. And by the way, anybody listening to this, don't come up to me with a bunch of shit to sign now. But I'm really bad. I never read. I'm so in a hurry. I click right through. Like I know that's a terrible habit.
Hey, Casey, do you want to write out the contracts for the podcast real quick and just
slide it over his way and just sign this real quick?
I'm not gonna fall for that shit now, dude. I've got a funny story. Speaking about signing things, one of the funny stories I heard Kevin Smith, and hopefully anybody listening to this has been lucky enough to catch Kevin Smith live. If you haven't,
do it.
He told The funniest story. He said, here's a little trick from Hollywood. He goes, if somebody's not looking, never sign your own name to anything, because they can come back and get you. And he said he learned that from Ben Affleck. He said Ben Affleck told, he goes, well, what name do you sign? He goes, I sign Sandra Bullock's name. Always. If nobody's looking, I sign her name, because that way if you want out of something, you go, I never signed that, and your signature's not on it. You know, and I guess it doesn't usually come back on you the other way. And so Kevin Smith said he signs Ben Affleck's name to everything. Yeah,
that's shitty.
He goes, if nobody's looking, don't ever sign your own name. That's a Hollywood trick.
Well, I was working at Target when the whole debacle went down with the Target system and credit card
yeah, that
scam.
was a big one.
And it was nasty. Like, people would call and, you know, they'd call up on the phone screaming at you, and you're just like, I'm
sure they called you like you could fix it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
They needed somebody to get mad at.
I would pick up the phone and be, you know, thanks for calling Target, and they're like, what did you do? Like, it was all my fault. And I understand, like, when you have a situation like that happen to you and you get your identity stolen, or you think you might get your identity stolen, that puts you in a panic where you're just seeing red. Mm-hmm. So I can understand why people were like that.
Still doesn't make it pleasant.
No, it doesn't make it pleasant at all. And the website that they were sending people to was getting overrun with, like, how much traffic they were getting. Their phones were getting too much traffic, so people were calling us being like, the phone line that you're giving us isn't working, the computer site that you guys are giving us isn't working, and we're just like, we're sorry, and that's all I can say. And I would just hang up the phone. I'm like, people would call and be like, you know, you son of a bitch, and I'd just be like, hang up the phone.
I wish you guys could see the face Casey just made. It really looked like someone had called him a son of a bitch.
Yeah, and I did. I got cussed out, and I would just wince and hang up the phone. And of course,
that opens like a whole can of worms right there. That we don't want to get into it so much on this podcast, and we don't, obviously don't want to spread any like negative vibes or whatever. But God, dealing with the public sometimes.
Speaking of, actually, would you ever like loan somebody your phone so that they could use it to call theirs?
No, absolutely not. Especially if it was.
You seem like the type of guy that would.
No, I mean,
maybe you've got that face.
Not even you guys. I don't think I'd give you my phone.
You've got a real trusting face.
Like, I know you said your phone died. If you needed to call your missus, I might, but
I feel like what you would do is just call her yourself and be like, by the way, Hunter's here and needs blah blah blah. How you doing?
Yeah,
you guys would strike up a conversation.
We'd chat. She's so nice.
She's loves you so much.
But I would love to see her defend me to your brother, who apparently hates me. So,
Adam, there's your shout out for this week.
Shout out, Adam. Hey. What up? I fucking hate Casey too.
I'm not entirely sure what I did to Adam to make him not like me, but next time I see him, I'm just going to give him a really big gummy bear hug.
I still think that it's just because he doesn't know you well enough to know you, so whatever life gives him to be aggressive at any point, like you're right now his target.
Yeah. That's fine.
That raises an interesting
That makes it
topic.
sound so bad. Adam doesn't really hate you.
I'm sure he doesn't. He doesn't even know me.
Man, I'd have a hard time. Honestly, it kills me to say this.
Although I think if he got to know me, he probably would hate me.
I don't see really, honestly, how anybody can hate Casey. Like it's like
I'm kind of an asshole.
I could.
You say that.
Yeah.
Maybe I just try to be an asshole and I don't do really good.
You're punchy, but you're like this sweet little guy.
You're like a bleached asshole. It's pleasant.
What the fuck?
There it goes. You know what that? Okay. Oh my. Can you?
We might need to take that one out.
We might have to edit that out.
That was a hot take.
Oh God, it was a hot take. Holy.
That has to stay in. Come on.
God.
I was gonna say like. Speaking of like people that don't like people, like if there's somebody that like you don't like, and let's say the scenario is they haven't ever really done anything to you, do you know anybody? You don't have to name names.
Every auto mechanic I've ever met.
Whoa, really?
You just meet them and you're like right away. You're like, all right, how are you gonna fuck me out of all my money today?
It feels like they're gonna need to borrow your phone, right?
Yeah. We have a fan of this podcast that's a very skilled mechanic.
Well, hold on a second.
Planning on coming on, he would like. You know what? He might be the antidote for anybody that doesn't trust.
You may have just given Adam a reason to hate you.
That's right.
Maybe, but no. There's a
lot of people have been screwed over by mechanics. That's
course
true. Sure.
That's the thing about knowing where your lines are too, because I know that has happened to people. But if that were to happen to me, I would just put my foot down and be like, hey, I appreciate you fixing all that, but I asked you to check the brakes, which was going to be $60, so I'm not paying for the extra shit. Yeah. And then if they pull anything, I call the cops.
Honestly, that's why, we're not sponsored by them, but Jiffy Lube will literally come in, every problem they find, they'll come in and be like, hey, this is your air filter. do you want us to replace it? No.
As it should be.
Yeah, and I'm like, no. And they go,
Yeah.
not a problem. Cool, I'll put that back in.
I got to give a
just
shout
want-
out to Jiffy Lube. Like, man, it's so convenient and they're so fast, and like you said, they're so. By my experience, not that pushy, but they're just like, hey, we could do this, we could do that. I've even said, should we put this like super fancy oil? And they go, no, not really.
He means the car place.
Yeah, Jiffy Lube.
Yeah.
You know what? Oh, I see. Oh, I get what you're making.
God, he is
you're
on
making
fire.
a personal lubricant joke, weren't you? Why don't you lube yourself up out of this conversation, you little nitwit? Okay.
Oh, God.
Yeah, turd socket.
Zing!
So,
At least I'm not a troglodyte, Casey.
That's fair.
really? Because fucking time's going to tell on that one, Hunter. It's been a really long night, you guys. We're in a very bizarre mood. This could be this might be the most bizarre Beacon House. You know what?
No. There's only 7 out right now.
That's a polarizing statement. Let's not even go there.
Hey, we could start a poll.
Casey does the poll on Facebook.
Yeah, I do the polls on Facebook.
We don't do the poll
we
on
don't. I mean, we
Hunter,
record
get-
these now.
No, not now.
Get
not
out, Hunter.
Get out!
you overthinking fucks. No.
All right, but
that was mean. I'm
Anyway,
sorry.
before we totally became, before the bottom dropped out of this,
Talking about cars, I want to ask you guys a question. I don't know how to drive a stick shift, and apparently,
yeah, that's
the people I'm
you should be
surrounded.
ashamed of yourself for that.
The people who I'm surrounded by tell me that all the time.
Yeah, it's pathetic.
Literally, no new car is made only stick shift nowadays.
True, but you can't go with that mantra because you might have to use. I was trained to drive with a stick shift only so that I would have that knowledge. I haven't had to do it since.
And I
but
gotta say,
can in a
I will
pinch.
say, my current car is not a stick shift, and I hate it every day because I used to drive one, and it's a completely different experience.
Until you're on a hill.
No, dude, it's fine on it. No, that's bullshit. Listen,
But I don't want to learn. That's the thing. It's like,
well, you don't have to. You don't have to. But the point, and I just wanted to. I was actually going to defend you a little bit. Not everybody had an opportunity, and some people are literally just born into families that only drive automatics, and they never
Right.
they didn't even know what a stick shift was most of their life. And that, but I grew up around a bunch of gearheads and just engine dudes and stuff like that. And the guys I hung out with when I had my first car, second car, if you weren't driving a stick shift, you could suck shit.
I think I'm going to be
Adam
the
had
most
a-
hated person on this podcast because I don't vote and I don't know how to drive a stick shift.
No,
You
it's
know
fine.
what? But you're good at other. I will say this. Generally, those are two categories of which I'm already kind of like walking around.
Adam-
but you're actually not that bad at
Adam
it.
had
thanks.
I don't remember what. I think it was a Camaro of some age, but whatever. His first car was a stick shift, and it's probably a point of contention in why our relationship was so bad growing up. Growing up sounds like from childhood.
Did you
but
break it trying to learn how to
no,
drive
No,
it?
but just like I was needing to use his car because that was going to be the one that I might get. We eventually got me another one, so it wound up washing out. But it was weird because he wanted to keep his car, but who doesn't want a new one, and just all this weird 16 and 17-year-old bullshit. But point being, we had a stick shift available, so he's right. Not everybody does. I learned on one. I haven't touched it since, so I'd probably actually be terrible at it. But it's good to have base knowledge on.
Yeah, and I would go further than this to say if you have the opportunity, if you know somebody that's got one. And they're willing to teach you. You should totally do it, man, because we're approaching that point in the future where they're definitely going to stop making them at some point. Electronic transmissions have gotten so advanced now that you almost don't. You still can't get the performance out of an automatic. I don't give a fuck what you say. You cannot get the performance out of an automatic. I don't care if it's electric. I don't give a fuck if it's a Tesla. I don't care. There's nothing like driving a naturally aspirated manual transmission car. It's a completely different experience. It's lost on a lot of people these days. I understand it. I get it. I get if you just need something to get you to point A to point B. You don't give a fuck what kind of car you drive. You don't care. You don't find driving fun. You find it cumbersome. There's not an experience in it for you. Why would you even do it? I get it. But for anybody that gives a fuck, if you think driving is fun, if you love getting in the car and turning the radio on, and if that point A to point B thing for you is more than just a kind of an inconvenience. If it's actually a pastime for you, you should try it out. It's super fucking fun. Just putting that out there.
See, and I like driving, but I don't know. I don't like the idea of doing 3 things at once. like the moving of the gears,
Yeah.
the clutch, the brake, the
That's
gas.
Man, it's hard for me to articulate how it.
And I know a lot of people say that I'm
It does-
crazy and that I would love it,
No, no,
but
no, no.
I just it's not for me.
And it doesn't have to be, and that's fine. But like, I will say this: all those different things you seem like you're doing, or you see somebody doing, you go, "Wow, they're doing all these different." That was confusing. It after like a couple of weeks, you don't. It doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
You don't even know that you're doing it. Like, think of all the different things you do when you stand up and walk down the hall. Think of all the different hundreds of different motions you're doing all at once, and you don't think about them. It becomes kind of like that.
Do you ever have a moment when you're driving where you just space out and then you're at your destination and
Yep.
you've just dropped out of certain
That scares
I was
the hell out
about
of
to
me, too.
tell you that does not happen when you're driving a stick shift.
Oh, I guarantee
You're
you it doesn't.
100% present
You have to be.
through every shift in momentum. You can feel the car speeding up and slowing down without hitting the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
You can control the momentum. You can downshift when you're turning, and it just sort of it feels like somebody puts a hand on the front of the car and just kind of barely slows you down, or maybe presses down from the top and your tires dig in a little bit. You have tremendous amount of control over the car. You feel the road. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really cool. But I will say this. I'd like to amend my previous statement where I said, if you know somebody that's got one, have them teach you. Girls, if you want to learn, don't have your mom or your dad or your boyfriend teach you because you're just going to get in a big fight. I've seen a lot of people that go, well, hey, why didn't you ever learn to drive a stick shift? Well, I tried, and then we had a huge fight. And, like, find somebody that's indifferent. Like, get one of your girlfriends that's got one or somebody.
To that point, I've never driven a stick shift in my life.
You motherfucker.
That whole story about the Camaro and everything was just a crock of shit?
Total bullshit.
What? What a fucking numbnuts. Remember when I said time's going to tell?
And
It
to be
did.
fair, 2 point, I actually know how to drive a stick shift.
Do you?
No, not really. What a twist!
I can't handle any more deception.
So much misdirection. It's great.
Maybe in another dimension.
But
I
no,
did.
like it freaks me out when I'm driving down the road and then all of a sudden I'm at like a stoplight and I'm just like all of a sudden it snaps in and I go, how the fuck did I get here?
I hate that so much.
There's so many distractions now. You get your phone and let's not even mince words. Everybody looks at their damn phone while they're driving. It's 2018.
I don't. Absolutely not.
You don't look at it at all.
Nope. Once I start my car,
Where do you put your phone?
I'll start my podcast or I will start my audiobook on my phone.
Okay.
I'll shut it and I'll set it in the passenger seat in the charger and I'll
Sure.
drive.
That's pretty good. Now, I will say I do that if I have a podcast to
freaks
listen
me
to.
out if people pull out their phone while they're driving, like in the middle of driving and start texting.
Nope.
Right away, I'm
I
like,
avoid 'em.
put your fucking phone away.
Dude, man.
My life is in your hands, and I don't want to see that.
No,
Put your phone
I
down.
totally get that too. And if I'm rarely riding with anybody, but if I am riding with somebody and they're texting, it does make me a little nervous. But man, my phone's going off constantly, and sometimes it's like work, and it's not the kind of thing where. Like,
Why
it's
don't they
like-
call you?
I don't know. Sometimes they
like-
do, sometimes they don't. Dude, a lot of people don't like to call anymore. It's weird. There are people that are super against.
If you were my boss and I had a problem, the first thing I would do is call you.
Sure.
Which actually is probably why my boss doesn't care for me. Because every time I have a problem at work, I call him and he's like, why are you calling me?
Well,
And I'm like, I have this problem. He's like, you know how to fix it? I'm like, yeah, but I just want to make sure I'm doing it right.
I just wanted to talk to you. Well,
Well,
no,
I mean, I do
sometimes
love the
we're
sound of
involved in
his
like
voice.
a really ridiculous like group text where you don't. Nobody's texting you directly. They're texting like 15 people, and they all have to respond. Got it, or they know you didn't see it, and then you'll get a call, and it's like you're in trouble or something like. So there's this constant like I don't know. There's justification of information kind of a thing, and it never stops.
You two probably are the worst people about responding to text right away.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are times I have to just divorce myself from my phone.
Well,
I've got to
I
put
will-
it in another room.
And
put
it
it
could
away.
be honestly because I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, hey guys, what do you think about this? And then literally at like 5 o'clock the next afternoon, you guys respond, or you don't respond at all, and then you start talking about something else, and I'm like, really?
Here's a question. Let's put this out there for you two guys. What's the most addictive thing on your phone? What's the thing you have the hardest time not looking at? When you pick your phone up, what's the first thing you go to?
YouTube.
For you, it's YouTube?
Yeah. Or the Rooster Teeth app. Like I'm always trying to look for a
YouTube.
new video.
Like, that's the thing that like, you would almost get in trouble, like, at work because you just can't put it in.
Well,
It's not a social media.
If I got trouble at work for being on my phone.
If you did, but like if you were just like.
And to be fair, where I work, it's one of those places where as long as, I'm digging myself into a hole. Having your phone out is not okay, but there are certain situations where the job is done and then you have time to kill, and the higher ups understand that phones are what preoccupy people nowadays.
Well, and it's 2018. Everybody's got a phone, and lives are not the same as they were. Like, cell phones are part of everyday life. Yeah. So people are going to have their phone out occasionally, texting, and I think you have to treat it with a grain of salt. I mean, I would appreciate places that have strict no smartphone policies and stuff like that. But there's a point where we're going to get that's just not practical.
Yeah,
it's just going to be part of your.
Well, even when I worked at Target, people would come up to me and ask me like where a certain item was or where like the next other Target is, and you'd have to pull out your phone and pull out Google Maps and show them like where the next place was, or pull out your phone and they're like, I want to find this movie. It has a blue cover with a kid on the front with a Gremlin, and you're
it's
like,
not
sure,
it's not just a distraction; it's a tool.
Yeah.
What about you?
YouTube and Pinterest, equal measure.
I can see Pinterest for you. You're a real big artist.
Yeah. So tons of art stuff, and then if it's not, I guess still technically art stuff, but if it's not that, I'm getting like character art for Dungeons and Dragons. So
interesting.
I think Spencer's looking for Facebook. That's the one he was looking for us to say.
I got rid of the app. That's why I have like 80 notifications every time I get on there.
No, I have a love-hate relationship with Facebook. I think it's just kind of there. It's not my favorite. I go to it sometimes. We obviously try to maintain a presence for this podcast on it, and there are times too where I consider Facebook sort of like a ongoing, almost like I used to a long time ago with Tumblr. It was sort of like an ongoing like diary kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes if I feel something poignant, and there's certain people that I only have contact with through Facebook, like certain distant family members. I don't have any immediate family in Tennessee left. But, certain distant family members will keep up with them. So if I have something kind of, I don't know, personal or something, I'll post it on Facebook because there's certain people I want to see it. Or if I feel like I have an epiphany or like, not that I'm anybody important, but my largest audience is definitely Facebook. So if I need to, I don't know, if I feel like that book, the book that I got, This Is How. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal book. It blew me away. We'll have to dude, when you get it, you ordered it, right?
I ordered it. It'll be here tomorrow.
First off, I want to say, anybody listening to this, I got a whole bunch of responses that same day of people that they literally said, I just ordered it on your recommendation. And I almost frightened me a little bit because I was like, well, I'm only like 3 chapters in. I don't know how it's going to turn out.
Well, you hadn't finished it yet?
No.
Oh my God! I mean, why did I buy it?
Dude, you're gonna love it.
I'm sure I'm gonna love it. From the reviews I read, people are like, he doesn't pull punches, like he's brutal.
No. It's the most honest, self-reflecting book. I don't necessarily want to call it a self-help book because that kind of
inspirational is what from what it looked like. It's very.
I don't know, man. It's
beat you down and bring you up all in the same book.
It doesn't really. It sort of talks to you. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna break off just a couple little nuggets of info. Let's put it. The book was so good, I was stopping and making notes on my phone of thing. And this is like 3 chapters in. I had a whole page of notes from it. But one of the first things it says is like, he talks about like, wipe that damn smile off your face. If you don't feel good, you don't have to feel good. Don't let anybody tell you to smile or like you should feel better. It's not so bad. Yeah, it is bad. And he goes, the only way you ever get over anything is by being honest with yourself about it.
Amen to that.
And he goes, and now that we talk about it, he goes, yeah, that makes sense. But people don't think like that. Everything is like, cheer up, here, put a smile on your face. You know, like it's all about a diversion of like your true feelings, which sort of just masks things. And I think that's probably how people get shit buried. I'm not a psychologist, but anyway, there's some great advice in this book, and I'm not going to go over all of it, but check this out. This is one of the biggest things that nailed me. He said, he's talking about willpower. If you feel like you need to change something about yourself, if you're, like your hair color, you're not smart enough, or you're overweight, or you're underweight, or you blah, 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 your eyes are the wrong color, whatever. All these things that we're taught to be critical of ourselves about, okay? He said, okay, change whatever you want, but if people talk about willpower, use willpower. You've got to get in the gym. It's going to take willpower. You can't eat hamburgers. Use willpower. Go get some broccoli. And the guy points out, anything you do, if it requires too much willpower, you don't really want it. Mm-hmm. if you think about anything, and I can totally relate to this, because I have to drag my fucking ass into the gym sometimes, and I mean, I do a lot of things I don't want to do, and it does take willpower, but the things I love don't require any willpower. I'm there, like music, like messing with guitars and amps and pedals and cables, or doing this podcast, or hanging out with my friends, or anything talking about important. What doesn't require any willpower. Mm-hmm. And so he talks about examining what you really want and deciding, is it really worth it or is it not? But whatever it is you're struggling with, you have to examine if it's taking a lot of willpower, what do you really want out of everything? But anyway, the book is way bigger than that. And I just wanted to say to everybody that purchased that book on my recommendation, like, dude, I'm flattered. Thanks for thinking that I have any freaking idea what I'm talking about. It means a lot to me. You got Tim Holbert, if you're listening. Tim Holbert was another guy that said it. I mean, a lot of people, I was blown away by that.
I was talking to Libby about a week ago, probably one or 2 weeks ago. Similar discussion where I was going on this rant about how tired I was and how stuck I felt and how angry I was and blah, 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 blah. And just this big old complain old city thing. And then I kept, like, and I think it might have been one of the last times we met to do this, and I was bitching and moaning not about doing this, but just how tired I was. But then I was like, but now I'm going to go do this fucking podcast, but it's because I want to, and I just don't know how to, like, reconcile my complaining to you for 20 minutes about being tired and then going out there to do this, blah, and just, like, beating myself up. And she goes, well, it makes sense, though, because you're doing this stuff because you have to. And she goes, this other stuff you technically don't have to do, but this is what fulfills you as a person.
Sure.
That's why you're tired, but when you go, you know, the journey there is good for you, being there is good for you, and you come back, you're always happier. It's totally different than all this other stuff that is necessary, but not anything that you get any fulfillment out of at all.
Sure. And you know, you don't want to take a mixed message out of that, like, so you should only do things that you just love and want to do. And like,
yeah,
what if you just want to sit around all day and not, you know, eventually you've got to go to work. You've got to do something. You've got to take care. You have to eventually observe your health. Mm-hmm. That's another thing. You can't just eat like you did when you were a teenager, you know.
But I just wanted to point out that I totally agree with you in that point, or that aspect of having your work life and then having your passion. Mm-hmm. And maybe the passion doesn't pay the bills and bring in the money, and work does. And you got to find that. I mean, it's hard nowadays. You know, you get 2 days off a week, and in those 2 days you have to run errands, get your hair cut, you know, go grocery shopping, pay bills, get caught up on any kind of like rest or sleep that you want to do. Mm-hmm. And then also add in, you know, this other stuff. Like right now, you know, you have the podcast. I can't talk about
the new stuff coming out,
but I mean, we have 2 or 3 projects that I'm working on with one other person, and I have another project I'm working on with Hunter and Libby, and it's like...
And I can say, I can't divulge what he's talking about, but I've heard snippets of what he's working on a lot of cool stuff. There's going to be some really interesting content for you guys coming down the pike, and it's going to be spectacular.
Super dope, yeah.
I'm really excited because I love this podcast, mm-hmm. and like I said from the beginning, I wanted this podcast to be the start of what eventually Beacon House would umbrella into, mm-hmm. and I wanted to cover a lot of stuff. I think I found like my passion of creating content and doing like creative stuff for people and getting that feedback really kind of, you know, puts the fire in my coal. Yeah. I guess would that be the expression?
That's not an expression I've ever heard.
It's a good one, though.
Yeah, but it's good to know you've got some fire in your coal.
But what I'm saying is I can understand where you're coming from, because there's been points where I'm just like, is it worth it? And I'm like, yes, it is. Like, I can't, like, my work life, of course, is what pays the bills, but my passion is what makes me who I am, and I can't turn that away just because it's getting a little tough. And I think this book is going to help me, give me that push to get over any kind of hump or hurdle I have in the future.
I'd say even more to that point, and an example for how all three of us feel the same way about these things, like the band, when we're doing band practice, or your other projects that you're working on, and specifically the podcast. The fact that today was unplanned, but we always get together if it's possible, no matter what else is happening. And I was, while you were talking, thinking about the time we recorded at like 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Nobody planned for that. I'm pretty sure some of us had to go to work the next day or whatever, and we didn't want to do it that way, but that wound up being what had to happen. So we had hung out for like 5 hours by the time we started recording, but the whole thing was great.
Yeah.
You're still tired, but it go like Libby's very right. If it fulfills you, you said about passion.
You do your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important, I think.
It doesn't drain you. That's the thing.
Yeah, what's crazy is like if you're at work and you don't want to be at work and you're tired, it's grueling. Like it almost you're just like, oh God. But if you're tired and you're doing something you're passionate about and working on like a project, you don't feel it. Like
I've unlimited resource of energy when you're doing something. You don't think about it. You don't think about it at all. Like when I'm here in this room where we do these things, and like we're sitting here with our microphones, and like the podcast is pulled up, and right over there is my guitar, and the place we also write music, and we've got this thing. Like I'm on very little sleep right now, but I don't feel tired in here. This is where I come to do my thing. It doesn't feel like work either. There's a very real thing about that. Now, real quick, before we get any further, I want to mention the book is called This Is How, Surviving What You Think You Can't, and it's written by Augustin Burroughs, who wrote, probably more notably, Running with Scissors.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal.
Or Dry, a memoir.
A memoir, Dry, okay. And I've heard he's got a ton of great stuff. I personally hadn't heard or anything from the guy I picked this up, of my friend Diane Roberts. Diane, if you're listening, thank you so much for the recommendation. She actually wrote inside the book, but man, Diane's a real cerebral chick, and like she's smart, and we've had a lot of real deep conversations, and I would take about anything on her recommendation, but she grabbed this book and just basically handed it to me, and I had no idea what I was getting into, but it really changed the whole day up for me. I can't wait to get back into it and read it. I'm not claiming it's a cure-all for everything, but it's pretty good. And he even talks about dealing with more traumatic things than just like the stress of everyday life. He talks about like dealing with loss and crazy stuff. And apparently it gets even crazier in the book. But man, it's a real no bullshit type of an approach to things about life. Like you feel how you feel. It's about being honest with yourself and all this kind of stuff. It's pretty cool, man.
Just real quick, as I realized I hadn't told you this, the thing that we're working on together, the other thing right now, the people that we've gotten to be involved, I thought, I knew that they would get some kind of joy out of it, but I thought that they were mostly signing up because like Yumi and Libby asked, and they were just going to help. When I ran into them next, after everyone had agreed that they brought it up themselves, and I just thought, give you a boost. Like, they're through the roof about it.
That's why, honestly, you guys brought them up. I know these people, and that's why I asked them, because I know that when it comes to working on projects, these people can be as passionate as I am. And that's why with the other project I'm working on and the guy I'm working on that with, hopefully, I mean, I'm going to call him out because he's a good buddy of mine, my buddy Jason.
Shout out.
And I want to get him on the podcast before we launch what we're launching and have him, be here when we announce it. But he's, I mean, I know.
I want to interject about that too. I know what you're talking about, and everybody listens probably like, will they just say what the fuck it is?
Yeah,
we can't say yet. We can't say yet, but I will kind of hint at it. What Casey's working on. And what they're doing together, it's not exactly my thing. It's something that's kind of outside my field of vision. But I want to tell you this: it's big, and it's extremely popular, and they're going to be fucking better at it than anybody. And even though it's not exactly my thing, I'm going to get involved, and I'm going to help them be better at it than anybody, and it's going to rock. Yeah, so we want to come at you guys with all kinds of stuff. Like, this isn't just going to be a audio only podcast. We want to bring videos to you guys, all kinds of stuff, and we talk about it all the time. And again, I don't want to dangle too much of a carrot because this could take a while.
Yeah.
But we're working on some other things too. So we want to entertain a very broad variety of people.
If I may, as a special shout out to Jason, because I'm pretty sure he's one of like 4 people that'll get this, but I never got to tell him. The end of the first D&D campaign that I ran, there was a character, and it was lost on everybody but 2 people at the table too. So ultimately didn't work, but I thought you'd appreciate it. The way it ended was everyone went their own way, and then we went to this tavern, and a character got up, walked over to a fireplace, and flipped a gold coin into the fire. So that was for you. You weren't there. You'd already moved at that point. But
inside D&D
yeah,
joke. Not really a joke.
Totally random, and sorry, but he'll get it.
I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it. And I want to say too, a lot of you guys are like, "Hey, games," or like, "Hey, D&D," and I go, "I don't really know about that stuff." I want you guys to know when we get to talking about my stuff, like when we do the guitar episode, you have no idea what nerddom looks like.
Cryptozoology. I can't
Way
wait to
beyond.
get there.
Like when I start talking about guitars and pedals and effects and tone and like signal transfer, and I'm a real maniac about it. So that's coming down the road, and you guys are going to be like, I wish he would shut up. I have no idea what a capacitor is.
Now, and one thing I can announce actually, because it's already up, ready to go, and people can follow it if they want.
You're dating dudes.
No. Oh God.
Coming soon, guys.
We started a Twitch page or Twitch channel, and hopefully in the next month or so, whenever this is released,
this is big. It's
we'll right now there's no schedule. It'll be honestly, you'll have to be just on Twitter, and I'll give an hour or two notice before we go live with something. But I want to get these two.
Hey, we're gonna Twitch.
These two are not gamers.
Yeah.
At all.
He's pointing at me and Hunter.
Well, no shit. You're the only
Well,
other two people.
It's a visual podcast,
It's a
so an
visual
audio-visual
podcast.
podcast.
With all the meta humor and the
Yeah.
non-Euclidean
Oh,
vocabulary.
we're back to the Godzilla porn.
God. Anyways.
Spencer, you can stay. It's fine.
Thanks.
But
Thanks,
I want to get
baby.
these guys in on
Casey's
it.
gonna
I also
date one
want
of us.
I want to do some fun stuff on the Twitch on my own time if I can. But I also want to get these guys down here in the room and set it up and play some horror games and scare the shit out of them, because I don't think they know what's coming. And I want to do some other stuff. Maybe even we can have like a live Twitch of a recording of the podcast at some point.
That'd be cool.
Tune in live to watch Casey Twitch.
So, anyways, the Twitch, just like Instagram and Twitter is the Beacon House. So that's how you find it. Spencer's about to shit
There's
his
nothing.
pants.
Stop it. I'm not either. You don't pretend to understand my lower track.
Everyone shits their pants sometimes.
Yeah.
Spencer. It's
You know
okay.
that's actually true.
It is true.
I mean,
I'm not lying.
So, guys, just
Don't
Nope.
steer out of that.
I'm-
That's a hot topic.
I'm gonna steer out.
Everyone poos the pants.
And since we're talking about Twitch, you can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/The Beacon House.
That's right.
You
Log
can
in
find
to
us on
watch-
Instagram at Beacon House Knox, Twitter at Beacon House
Log
Knox,
in to watch Casey.
and yeah, you can't even say that out. You can't even get
poos
it.
his pants live on Twitch.
I mean, hey, if people donated enough money, I would totally shit my pants on
That
live.
should be the name
Oh,
of this
yeah, me
episode.
too. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Absolutely.
Name of this episode is Casey Poops His Pants.
Yep. No, I think it should be bleached
He goes,
asshole.
no. You want to get the podcast banned forever? Let's call it bleached asshole. God.
And guys, also send us an email. We want to do a mailbag episode. We haven't had a lot of people send us questions. We had a couple.
We're starting to get there. We're getting some good emails now.
Yes.
But please. I mean, you can reach out to us on social media, on Twitter. You can send us a message on Instagram, whatever. But generally, we're going to look for these at beaconhouseknox@gmail.com.
Yep.
That's easy.
Silly
the
or
easiest. Yeah. Please email us some questions. It doesn't have to be serious questions. In fact, if they're a little crazy, it might make for a better episode.
Yeah.
And also, if you don't like the topics that we cover, that'll help us find out something to talk about.
That's true too. Let us
That'll-
know if you don't like what we're talking about.
Sometimes we.
Or if there's something you want to hear us discuss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's not always easy to sound interesting talking about things. Like we don't plan a lot of this stuff out. We sort of just react to things. We want this to be a really honest podcast in terms of a lot of things. But, I will add to that too. If you're emailing us, if you're listening to this, if you're in Knoxville or near Knoxville, or you're going to be in Knoxville and you want to talk to us about something, we might be able to get you on as a co-host.
Yeah.
We have a fourth microphone. But if you have a real...
We don't have any money to pay you.
Yeah, you're not getting shit. Actually, I take
Free
it back.
coffee.
Guests may get coffee, or if it's a musical guest, possibly a guitar cable, the finest in the world. We'll get to that later.
Ooh.
But beyond that, yeah, maybe we'll have you on. If you want to come talk to us about something, let us know. If the time frame works out, we'll get you in. Or if you think we need to interview someone on our podcast, let us know.
Absolutely.
Again, we're trying to make this as interactive as possible, so we want all kinds of ideas from you guys, and we really do take them seriously. We're not just saying that. So we would like to create content based on what you want to see.
Ultimately, with this episode, we want you to walk away knowing it's okay for.
Oh, here we go.
Can't even. I know a shitty joke's about to come.
It's not a shitty joke. It's just
started out
it's
strong. I
stupid.
want to hear it. I want to hear it.
It's okay for you to poop your pants.
Oh, okay.
That's all I was gonna say.
Don't let anybody yuck your yum. If you like shit in your pants, you shit your pants.
Also, you yucked my yuck of your yum so hard on the
Oscars pod-
Dunkirk. Yeah,
And on that note,
I guess we better.
that's
go.
Spencer.
I didn't say that.
No, that's Spencer. Right there.
that's Hunter.
I'm not introducing you. You can't do it. I'll introduce myself. I'm Spencer. Okay, that's Casey.
That's Hunter.
I'm Hunter.
And I'm Casey.
We're a bunch of dicks. We sound like a bag of assholes.
And
I think you're okay.
Ah!
Oh, no.